friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another Ask Wrestle Juice. You guys got a lot of great questions that you posted on the community tab 2 weeks ago, and so I'm going to get to the rest of those in this episode. Of course, this episode is being filmed, about 18 hours after, 12 hours after it was announced that WWE had released a bunch more wrestlers, including Hit Row, Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick, John Morrison, Jackson Riker, Shane Thorne. I think that might cover most of them. And it's kind of numbing at this point, isn't it? I mean, you try to be a fan of this company, which you can't be a fan of the company at this point. You can be a fan of the performers. You can be a fan of the production. You could be a fan of the stories of Raw and SmackDown, as lacking as I might think they be. You might enjoy it, and that's great. That's fine. But in terms of, the ethical consumption of the WWE at this point, there is none. I mean, the record profits over and over again. They snatch up so much great talent, and now they're just sort of offloading them into the world. So it is disheartening. Not to mention, if you're a fan of the product and you don't watch stuff like this or watch Wrestle Talk or read Fightful or whatever, or Cultaholic, you have no idea what's going on. Like, you're watching SmackDown. Let's say you're just a casual fan and you're watching SmackDown and you're like, oh, wow, this Hit Row. They're pretty cool. What's up with them? And then they're just gone. They're just gone with no explanation. They're just none, right? And it's not like they announce this stuff on TV. I mean, at least in real sports, when people get released in baseball, football, basketball, it's like it's kayfabe because it's real life. Like, they announce that stuff. They're like, it's not like in WWE. They can tell their audience, hey, we released these superstars and we wish them the best in their future endeavors or whatever. On air, they don't do that because it just brings like a negative light, I guess, to the fact they just laid off a bunch of people, and they don't have to do that because they just exist in their own universe, and you just are supposed to forget that they exist. It's weird. Isn't that weird? That's weird, right? Like, from an entertainment standpoint, no other, like, okay, so The West Wing, the show that I liked back in the day. Season 1, there was a character named Mandy. Season 2, she was gone. And I think they might have made like one reference to it, but she was just gone. And it's sort of abnormal for that to happen. Every place else, if somebody's leaving a show, they will write that in. They'll have somebody die, or they'll change jobs, or they'll leave whatever the setting. In wrestling, in the WWE, and I mean, it probably happens in AEW. Who knows? I mean, I don't know if AEW has really brought people in and then they've just been gone all of a sudden. But I mean, I guess it's sort of a standard convention in wrestling. But still, that's weird, right? Like, what a weird trope of professional wrestling when somebody is, they're just gone all of a sudden. I don't know. That was a tangent. I'm sorry. It's terrible these people lost their jobs. Hopefully they all land on their feet and they do amazing things. But that brings us to our first question today in the AMA. And it's from Scarlet Nightwing. And he says, any chance Triple H leaves WWE, potentially start his own wrestling company? And a little while ago, I would have said, no, of course not. No, absolutely not. Even through everything he's been through, no. Right? But, like, we don't know what he's been through, really. Like, besides the obvious. He built a thing, and then it was completely and totally torn apart. And now all the building blocks, I mean, Swerve Scott, Shane Strickland, he was a Triple H guy. Triple H loved that guy. You could tell. Tegan Knox, Triple H loved her, wanted to push her a million times over. Unfortunately, she, had the knee injuries. Samoa Joe, they released, and then Triple H brought back. And I don't know, maybe Samoa Joe's been doing scouting for WWE. I sort of heard that, but who knows? But it's, I don't know how much a person can take when they build up stuff professionally just to see it come crashing down. And maybe he's got so many other duties within WWE that it's like, yeah, you know what? That's just what Vince wants. And my job is to serve Vince. That's his job. That's what he gets paid for. And you can't take things personally, like when you build an entire sub-brand of WWE and then Vince completely and totally turns it into a laughingstock, NXT 2.0. Maybe he's learned not to take that stuff personally because he's been with the company since 1996 or 5 or whatever. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he's like, oh, he gets the sort of gratification from his father-in-law, away from the cameras, to understand why those things happen and understand that it's a business that is constantly evolving. But maybe not. Maybe whatever happened to Triple H and his heart condition, and this is, look, I'm trying my best to be responsible here with discussing another man's health condition, but he had, what do they call it, a major cardiac event or whatever. Maybe that's too much. Maybe he's just like, God, this sucks. Like, everything I build here is just torn apart. And that if Triple H, Triple H had faith in NXT, and he knows that it was like shot in the leg multiple times to basically stunt its growth, stunt its success, because it didn't function in the way that it really should have functioned and successfully functioned for a short while there. And that's bring up stars to the main roster. They did that successfully with multiple stars, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Shinsuke Nakamura. And then they get to main roster. And I mean, in the case of Finn and Kevin Owens, they've both been a pretty big success. Other people have come through there. Drew McIntyre, who's the champion now, Big E. Big E was the second WWE NXT champion, rather. So I don't know at this point. The man has been through some major shit, and his footprint in WWE is quickly being dismantled. So if he has any sort of ego of his own, maybe he would leave. And pro wrestling does seem to be where his passion's at. He's got tons of money. He probably knows tons of investors. I just don't know. I'm not saying that, yeah, he would. I think it'd be incredibly unlikely that he would, but I was looking at this tweet from Denise Salcedo, and she has a running tally of all the releases over the past year, just this year, and it's massive. It's here on my phone. Look at the site. Look at that. Those are all names right there. I don't even know how many. Does she mention here in the in her tweet how many there are? No. And I'm looking at this list, and yeah, sure. So Bronson Reed's already in New Japan. Jake Atlas retired. Bobby Fish is in AEW. Mercedes Martinez, I think, is in Impact. Is she actually in Impact now? Leon Ruff, I think, is still in the Independents. A lot of these names. I mean, Bray Wyatt's making movies. He hasn't signed anywhere. There are names coming up as well. Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, his contract is coming up. Kyle O'Reilly's contract's coming up. And it's kind of obvious that those guys, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen's I would be shocked if he stayed with the WWE. He's probably going to go to AEW. But like this roster is bigger than an actual roster of some professional wrestling companies. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, if you were really a creative person, you could really put together something special with this roster here. And I don't know if he'd do it. And on top of that, the Ring of Honor releases. Oh my God, there is some major talent there. Ring of Honor in general. What if they threw just a shit ton of money at Triple H and was like, hey, rebuild Ring of Honor. And then he just creates NXT 1.0 over there in Ring of Honor. With that talent they have, with the talent that's out there in the independent ranks that isn't even signed to New Japan or AEW. There's some major or Impact. There's some major talent out there. Could you imagine with Sinclair? Could you imagine if Triple H left WWE and ran Ring of Honor? I don't think it'd happen. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. I don't think it's going to happen. But at this point, wouldn't you do that? I'm not him, so I don't know. And who knows? He's probably on like a 5-year contract that's unbreakable. But that'd be something crazy. With Sinclair money, what if they're like, hey, we had a chance of being AEW at one point. And they're like, well, we got a chance of being another AEW now with the game. Try not to get too excited. That's not going to happen. How cool would that be, though? Anyways, moving on here. The Bard says, do you think that New Japan's westward expansion would have worked out, or do you think it would have flopped and led to AEW anyways? I don't think it would have flopped. I don't think it would have led to there being an AEW, a New Japan AEW. If New Japan and Ring of Honor were able to do what the Young Bucks had asked them to do and sign them to like a dual contract where they're both paying the money, Ring of Honor's TV production was not suitable for mainstream consumption like AEW's is. That's just the bottom line. It's not. That was not going to work. And so I think that that's the kind of relationship that New Japan was probably going to have, where Ring of Honor would be their main sort of TV base. I could be completely wrong about that. Maybe they would have tried to get their own TV deal. It would have been on the smaller scale, though. It would have been on the level of like Impact or, Access or whatever. So I think that their westward expansion probably would have been a little bit more successful than it has been if it wasn't for AEW. But it's really difficult to tell exactly what kind of scope that would have been. They've been very careful with their westward rollout. So I don't know. It'd be a completely different landscape, though, obviously. Roy Wickiser says, with Big E being the champion, do you think now might be a good time to change up his moveset a little, maybe add a new finisher like the stretch muffler or a powerbomb variation? Yeah, give him a sit-out powerbomb. That'd be cool. I always love those. Yeah, I think that Big E needs a freshening up of his presentation. I think that Big E being a man alone, but still wearing sort of the gear of his New Day brothers, if you will, it just feels a little wonky. I think that he needs a visual representation of being, a guy by himself now, or he needs to get a new entourage, but still maintain ties with the New Day because people love that stuff. I think that they need to give him a custom title. I think that he's an outsized personality, that they need to exploit that outsized personality, and they don't. Instead, he just sort of rolls his eyes at everybody when they're coming at him, and then he destroys people, which is great. They do need to book him more of a monster, in which case, yes, a powerbomb variation would be awesome. I would love to see him do like a Batista bomb, the Spirit Bomb, Keith Lee's move. I'd love all that kind of stuff from Big E. But I do think there should be some sort of not like a rebrand. That's too much, but just sort of like some tweaks, maybe. He's been wearing the same ring gear since he won the title. It's beautiful ring gear. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I think I wouldn't mind seeing Big E turn a new phase, if you will, like Triple H did when he became the Game, John Adams says, what does Rampage look like in a year? Essential viewing or Thunder territory? I doubt that it's going to be in Thunder territory. I think that Rampage is a pivotal 1 hour of TV that's not quite as pivotal as Dynamite. And I think it's going to continue to be that. I think that at some point, Tony Khan's going to look at Rampage and be like, how do I make this more must-see? Does he mess with the time? I know he recently said that he couldn't mess with the time slot and he's going to make the most out of it. I wonder if he's able to continue to grow AEW. I think Rampage is one thing that they can really look at and say, okay, does it really make sense having this additional hour here on Friday nights? Would it make more sense to put it on a Thursday? Would it make more sense to put it on a Monday even in prime time, which is very dangerous territory? But it's like, I don't know what you'd rather do, go up against a really weak Monday Night Raw or be on its own in an island late night on the East Coast on Friday nights. Probably it's still the Friday night thing, probably, but maybe not. I don't know. My guess, if it's one or the other, it'd still be essential. It'd be what it is now. Not necessarily essential viewing, but pretty important stuff. You're going to miss some stuff if you miss Rampage. CJ Robinson, Bryan Danielson has said he feels he's the best version of himself in AEW. Do you think that's an indictment of WWE moving away from wrestling to be something else? I think it is. I don't know if an indictment is the right word. It is definitely telling that WWE and pro wrestling are two different things. It'd be a good question to ask Bryan Danielson. Do you believe that there is a clear delineation between sports entertainment and pro wrestling, or would sports entertainment under a different vision in WWE simply be professional wrestling? I think it's probably that. I think Vince's version of successful pro wrestling for the mainstream is sports entertainment. So it's the same thing. It's just Vince's way of doing pro wrestling. And Bryan Danielson's the kind of guy who really wants to let loose and give it all his all because he spent 3 years away from it. It was something that was robbed from him, and he's had a second life. And when you get that, you get a new set of priorities, and he's running with it. And he's like, this feels the freedom that he has to be himself and to be the kind of pro wrestler he wants to be was not afforded to him in WWE. No Haven says, if it's the ideal of the wrestler, if it's the idea of the wrestler not forced on them, do you think blading has a place in modern wrestling? Yeah, I love blood in wrestling. I think it's awesome. I would never get rid of it. As long as everybody's cool with it, I think it's great. It doesn't hurt you. It might scar up your head a little bit. I'm all about it. Black Shadow said it adds to stories. Black Shadow says, in your opinion, what would 2.0 have to do in the next 2 years to be considered the same level as 1.0? Well, 1.0 stood out based on the quality of their actual wrestling product, of their professional wrestling product. 2.0 would have to do the same thing, but given that 2.0 is sort of this weird toy of Vince McMahon's, I don't see that happening. So, yeah, they would have to distinguish themselves through professional wrestling, and they got a bunch of new people there, so it's not going to happen. Adam Rogers, would you foresee a third major brand on American TV in the next 2 years? Yeah, Triple H has led Ring of Honor. God damn it, I wish I hadn't thought about that because now it's just going to bug me that it's not going to happen. JMC, do you think Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish will dragon again in AEW? Will they be re-dragon again? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kyle O'Reilly's out of there, man. He is out of there. He's going to be in AEW. They have no problems referencing the Undisputed Era there, which I think is great. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Some guy also asked, should Undisputed Era reunite in AEW? Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yes, why not? People love that stuff. They were super over. Yes, there's no downside to it. Deep voice dude. It should be Adam Cole after he, swerves the Elite or whatever he's going to do. Absolutely. Deep voice dude. Do you expect to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson ever wrestle again? Do you want to see it? Yeah, he's entertaining. Sure. Do I expect to see him? It's a 50-50 proposition. Who knows? His Hollywood career might be too valuable to do that, but he can't get that rush of pro wrestling from anywhere else. So I kind of feel like it's a toss-up. Will his schedule allow it? Will his desire to be in front of 60 to 100,000 people chanting his name supersede that? It's up to him because he's got the stroke. The man can do whatever he wants to do. The Enforcer, Stevie Bradley, says, power rank the weekly shows you have to cover with Larson. Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, NXT 2.0, and Rampage. My number one is probably Dynamite. Dynamite's my number one. That's where all the cool stuff is happening right now. After that, it is NXT 2.0. And it's actually kind of close. And the reason why is because I watch NXT 2.0 live every single week on Tuesdays with the Enforcer, Stevie Bradley, over at twitch.tv/MFSteve here. That's right. I got my own personal Twitch channel. We do some stuff over there. I'm looking to do more. That experience, watching it with the Enforcer and all the friendos, plus the next day reviewing with Larson, where by and large, what we do is talk a lot of shit and have fun doing it. That is one of my favorite experiences. I'd actually put 2.0 number one on the list. Then would be Dynamite because it's Wednesday nights. It's fun. And it's a great show. Then I would go, I would actually go Raw next. The reason why is because Raw, I consume it on late Monday nights. Turn out the lights. I put it on. I fast forward through the commercials. It's like an hour and a half and 2 hours or so. I have some popcorn. I make it a real pleasant experience for myself because it's usually so bad. And then the next day, again, Larson and I, we review it around noon and we just sort of talk shit about it and we laugh about how bad it can be. And so it's just a pleasant experience. SmackDown and Rampage, although we do a watch along for Rampage and that's great, but it's like two shows back to back on Friday night. And then we got to do the review and then we got to edit it. And it's just not really what I want to be doing on a Friday night. I'm not complaining about it because I love my job. My job is great. But if I had to power rank things, working late on a Friday night is going to be lowest on my list of things that I want to be doing. So out of all these things, that's going to be the order. So NXT 2.0 is actually number one on my list. 200 years asks, any thoughts of chaos from New Japan coming to AEW soon? I want to see Okada. It's got to be Okada or nobody. Timothy Lemieux says, how many of the recent WWE releases will you think end up in AEW? I don't know. I really don't know. Swerve Scott probably. I'm not sure if he'd want to go with the rest of Hit Row. I don't know how closely. I mean, they were not together for very long, and he might want to be a solo guy. I honestly don't know. Maybe he thinks, hey, I can make more money together with these guys. Or maybe he thinks I can make more money and be a bigger star on my own. It's a completely valid concern or thought for him, because that dude really was misused in his time in WWE. Anyways, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Check out one of these other videos here. Hopefully I'll see you over there. I don't know what I'm going to put here, but it's probably going to be a good video. I don't know what I'm going to put there. It's probably going to be, I'll do the 2K trailer right here. And right here I'll do, I don't know, last week's Q&A maybe. Talk to you guys later.